Some friendships don't end with a fight. They end with a longer pause than anyone knows how to cross. You don't even notice it at first. A call you meant to return, a lunch you meant to reschedule, a "we should get together soon" that felt sincere in the moment. And then life kept moving. And one day you're scrolling through your contacts and you stop at a name. Your thumb hovers there, not because you're angry, because you're wondering, do they still think of me? Would it be strange to reach out now? Would it feel warm? Or would it feel like knocking on a door that's already been painted shut? So you set the phone down. You look out the window for a minute, the way people do when they're trying not to make a small sadness feel too big. Tonight's letter is about accepting the seasons of friendship and honoring what was without forcing what isn't. If you've looked up and realized your circle got smaller, if you've had that quiet moment of thinking, where did everyone go? I know that feeling. And I want to say something right away before the guilt starts talking. It's not always betrayal. Sometimes nobody did anything wrong. Sometimes it's time. Moves, work, health, caregiving, grandkids, different rhythms. Sometimes two people can care about each other and still drift. Not every goodbye gets spoken. That's part of what makes it so tender. Because if there had been a big argument, you could point to it and say, that's why. But when it fades quietly, you're left with questions. Did I do something? Did they stop loving me? Did I wait too long? And as you get older, you start learning a calmer truth. Some people were meant for a chapter, not the whole book. That doesn't mean the chapter didn't matter. It meant something. It held you at a certain time. It gave you laughter you still remember. It gave you a version of yourself you might not have met otherwise. And you don't have to ruin that with a chase. In the next part, I want to talk about how friendships actually fade in real life. How it often happens in the most ordinary ways, without villains, without drama, just distance. And what it means to stop taking that distance personally as you get older. Friendships rarely fall apart all at once. Most of the time they fade the way daylight fades, so slowly you don't notice until you look up and realize the room is darker. It starts with small things. A missed call that doesn't get returned until days later. A birthday text that comes late. A holiday card that doesn't come this year. A lunch that keeps getting pushed to sometime next month. And the truth is, in your 20s and 30s, you can absorb a lot of that without it meaning much. Life is chaotic. Everyone is building something. Everyone is exhausted. But later, especially as you get older, those small misses start stacking up. Not because you're more sensitive, because you're more awake to what matters. Life gets full in a different way. It's not just work and being busy, it's real weight. A parent who needs care. A spouse's health changing. Your own body asking for more attention. A move to be closer to family. A grandchild who becomes the new center of someone's week. And in the middle of all that, friendships can slip to the edges. Not because people don't care, because they're surviving their days. I think of two women I knew who used to meet at the same little diner every Thursday morning. Same booth, same coffee, same easy laughter. They were the kind of friends who didn't need to impress each other. They could show up with messy hair, bad news, or nothing to say. Then one of them moved a few states away. At first they tried, They really did. They called, they wrote, they made plans like, next time you're in town, and we'll do a trip soon. But soon is a slippery word. Soon became the holidays. Then it became summer. Then it became, can you believe it's been a year? And after a while, they weren't fighting. They were just living separate lives. That's the part people don't talk about. It starts with "we should," and it ends with silence. Not the dramatic kind, the ordinary kind. The kind where nobody is mad, but nobody is close anymore either. And when you're the one who notices first, it can hurt in a very particular way, because you start counting. You count who called last, who suggested the last plan, who remembered your birthday without a reminder. And you can start telling yourself a story. They don't care. I'm not important to them. I must not have meant that much. But distance isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's just life. That doesn't erase the sadness. It just keeps you from turning the sadness into self-blame. Because with age, one of the kindest things you can do for yourself is stop interpreting every drift as a verdict on your worth. Sometimes people aren't leaving you. They're being carried away by their own currents, and you're allowed to feel the loss of that without turning it into a trial. In the next part, I want to talk about another reason friendships drift, one that's even quieter. Sometimes you outgrow the same version of each other. Nobody is wrong. It just stops fitting the way it used to. There's a particular kind of tiredness that comes from being the one who keeps reaching. You're the one who texts first. You're the one who remembers birthdays. You're the one who suggests lunch. You're the one who says, "We should catch up." And then you're the one who tries to make it happen. And for a while, you tell yourself you're just being a good friend. You tell yourself, people are busy. It's fine. You tell yourself, this is what loyalty looks like. But somewhere along the way, you start noticing how it feels in your body, how you brace a little when you hit send, how you look at your phone too often afterward, how you feel that small sting when the reply is short, or late, or never comes. And that's when you begin to understand something. You can't build closeness alone. Friendship is not something you can drag across the finish line by yourself. It has to be met. It has to be returned. And with age, you start wanting relationships that don't require you to audition for a place in them. There's dignity in stepping back, not to punish anyone, just to stop draining yourself. I remember writing a message once, nothing dramatic, just a simple check-in. I wrote it, then reread it, and suddenly I could feel the old pattern under my fingers. The part of me that was trying to be easy to love. The part of me that was trying to make sure I didn't ask for too much. And I realized how long I'd been doing that. So I deleted it. Not because I didn't care, because I could feel that if I sent it, I would spend the rest of the day waiting for a response that might not come. And I didn't want to give my nervous system that job anymore. So instead, I put my phone down and went for a walk. The air was cool. The neighborhood was ordinary. A few porch lights were already on. And with each step, I felt something loosen. Because chasing isn't love. Chasing is anxiety dressed up as loyalty. And once you see that, it changes the way you reach for people. You start choosing effort that feels mutual. You start choosing friends who don't make you feel like you're always knocking. You start choosing ease. I stopped chasing and my nervous system thanked me. That's not cold. That's wisdom. And it doesn't mean you suddenly stop caring about old friends. It means you stop begging for closeness. I don't beg for closeness anymore, because real friendship doesn't require begging. Real friendship doesn't make you feel ashamed for wanting warmth. It doesn't leave you guessing where you stand. And if a friendship has become one-sided, stepping back is not betrayal. It's honesty. It's you telling the truth with your actions. And sometimes, when you step back, a friend steps forward. Sometimes the drift was temporary. Sometimes life was simply heavy. But if you step back and nothing changes, if the silence stays, then you have your answer. Not an answer they gave you, an answer you learned. And in the next part, I want to talk about how to hold that answer without becoming bitter, how to honor what the friendship was without forcing it to be what it isn't anymore. Sometimes friendships don't fade because life got busy. Sometimes they fade because you changed, and so did they, but not in the same direction. This is the kind of drifting that can feel confusing, because there's no clear moment you can point to, no move, no big crisis, no betrayal. You just wake up one day and realize the conversations don't land the way they used to. The jokes feel like they belong to a younger version of you. The topics stay on the surface. The connection feels like a memory you keep trying to re-enter. And you do try, because you're loyal. You show up, you make the call, you keep the tradition. But inside, you're working harder than you used to. Not to be kind, to act like it still fits. That can be a quiet heartbreak, especially as you get older, because at this age, you've learned the difference between effort that grows something and effort that only keeps it alive on paper. I've seen reunions like this. Two friends who hadn't seen each other in years finally sit down together, maybe at a coffee shop, maybe in someone's kitchen. They hug, they smile, they say all the right things, and for a few minutes, it feels warm. Then the conversation slips into old stories because that's where the ease is. They talk about the time they took that road trip, the time they laughed until they cried, the old neighborhood, the old people. And it's sweet. But after a while you notice something. The friendship is living in the past. You leave the table with nostalgia, not connection. Nostalgia is not a relationship. It's a feeling. It's a warm ache. But it isn't the same as being known right now, as you are. And with age, you start wanting to be known in the present. You want friendships that can hold who you've become, not just who you used to be. Sometimes a friend can only meet you in an older version of yourself. The version that stayed quiet. The version that laughed things off. The version that didn't say what was true. And when you grow past that, the friendship gets awkward. Not because you're better than them, because the old roles don't work anymore. Some friendships don't break, they simply stop being alive. That sounds harsh, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be honest. Because when you stop pretending, you can stop hurting yourself trying to revive something that has already changed. You can still respect that friend. You can still be grateful. You can still love what the friendship was. And you can also admit, this doesn't fit the same way anymore. That admission is painful, but it's also freeing, because it means the drift isn't always something to fix. Sometimes it's something to accept. And in the next part, I want to talk about the moment that acceptance really begins, The moment you stop chasing, not in anger, not in pride, just with dignity. When a friendship drifts, people often think they have two choices. Either you pretend it never mattered, or you fight to keep it exactly the same. But there's a third way, the older way. You honor what was without forcing what isn't. That means you don't rewrite the past to protect your ego. You don't say, "They were never a real friend anyway," just to avoid feeling the ache. Because sometimes they were real. They were real in that season. They were the person who showed up when you were young and scared, the person who made you laugh in a hard time, the person who sat with you through something you didn't think you'd survive. And that deserves respect, even if the friendship doesn't live in your present the same way. Sometimes honoring looks like keeping a photo, not to torture yourself, just to let your heart remember something good without turning it into a demand. You find an old picture in a drawer, two of you, smiling, sun in your eyes, arms around each other like the world was simple. You look at it and you feel that familiar warmth rise up, and instead of letting it turn into, "Why aren't we like that anymore?" you let it be, "We had something beautiful." That can be enough. Gratitude can be a goodbye. Sometimes honoring looks like telling the story of that friend with warmth, not with bitterness, not with sarcasm, just warmth. You mention them at a family dinner. You remember that trip. You remember that night you couldn't stop laughing. You don't need to add the sharp ending. You don't need to poison the memory just because the present is different. Some love is best carried quietly. Sometimes honoring looks like a simple holiday card, not a dramatic, "we need to talk," just a small, kind note. Thinking of you, hope you're well, no pressure, no guilt. And if they don't respond, you don't spiral. Because the point wasn't to get something back. The point was to send a clean kindness and let it be complete. Sometimes honoring means accepting a friendship that becomes once a year. A quick call on birthdays, a short visit when you're both in town, a warm exchange at a reunion. Not deep, not constant, but still respectful. A lot of older hearts make peace with this, because you learn that relationships don't have to be intense to be real. They can be small and still matter. They can be distant and still be held with affection. And here's the biggest part of honoring. You stop trying to resurrect a season. You stop trying to make two people become who they were at 35. Because you're not 35, they're not 35. Life has done what life does. It changed you. And instead of fighting that, you let the friendship be what it is now, or what it isn't. That is not giving up. That is maturity. It's you letting the past stay past without turning it into a wound you reopen every month. It's you saying, "Thank you for who you were to me," without demanding that they continue being that forever. And when you can do that, something else becomes possible. You create space, not just in your schedule, in your heart. And in the next part, I want to talk about that space, how it makes room for the friendships that actually fit your life now, in this age, in this season, with the person you've become. When your circle gets smaller, it's easy to tell yourself a scary story. That you're being left behind, that you're becoming invisible, that life is narrowing down to loneliness. But smaller doesn't always mean worse. Sometimes smaller means healthier. Sometimes it means you finally stopped making room for relationships that only lived on effort and history. With age, you start choosing ease. You start wanting friendships that feel like exhaling, not friendships that require you to recover afterward. And what's surprising is how much peace can come when you stop trying to maintain a crowd. You realize how much energy you spent keeping up, sending the first text, keeping the tradition alive, being the one who remembers, the one who smooths, the one who makes it work. When that stops, you suddenly have more room for the people who actually show up.
And those people might be fewer, but they're steadier.
At this age, one good friend can be enough. One person you can call without rehearsing. One person who doesn't make you feel like you're asking too much. One person you can sit with in silence and still feel understood. That's a rich life. And here's the part that's easy to forget. Friendship doesn't end after 60. It just changes how it arrives. It often shows up in ordinary places. A neighbor you used to just wave at, and then one day you talk a little longer by the mailbox. The same person you keep seeing on your walking route. Someone at the library who smiles at you every week until it becomes familiar. A conversation at the community center that starts small and slowly becomes real. I've seen it happen in the most American way imaginable, over small talk that turns into warmth. You ask, "How's your week going?" They answer honestly, just a little. You answer honestly, just a little. And suddenly you're not just two people passing each other. You're two people sharing a life in the same neighborhood. That's how it often begins now, not with big plans, with small steadiness. And you don't have to force it. You don't have to audition for it. You simply show up where life is already happening and let connection grow at a slower pace. Older friendships don't need to be intense to be real. They're often quieter but deeper. They don't demand you be the most entertaining version of yourself. They allow you to be the truest version. And that's why losing some friendships can be painful and still make your life better. Because it clears out the noise. It makes space for peace. It makes space for people who fit the person you are now, not the person you used to be. My circle is smaller, but my life is not. And in the closing, I want to leave you with something gentle. Something to help you hold drifting friendships with grace without turning it into self-blame or bitterness. If friends have drifted from your life, I want you to hear this tonight. It doesn't automatically mean you failed. It doesn't automatically mean you weren't worth keeping. Sometimes it simply means a season ended. And you don't have to force a season to return. You can miss someone and still let them go. You can feel the ache and still keep your dignity. You can honor what was without dragging yourself through the same doorway over and over. Because letting go isn't betrayal. It's honesty. It's you accepting what is instead of begging for what used to be. Some friendships drift away, and you let them, so you can stay kind, not desperate. And maybe that's one of the quieter gifts of age. You stop performing closeness. You stop trying to prove you're lovable by chasing. You start choosing relationships that feel mutual. You start choosing peace. So if there's a name in your phone you haven't called in a long time, and your heart still tightens when you see it, you don't have to hate them. You don't have to blame yourself. You can simply whisper, "Thank you for that chapter." And then you keep living. If this letter felt familiar, you're welcome here. And if you'd like, tell me in the comments, what's a friendship you still hold with gratitude, even if it changed? Take what helps, leave the rest.